There's a conspiracy theory so massive it rewrites our entire past. It's called Tartaria. Most people dismiss it, but an AI just gave it terrifying new life. After analyzing countless 19th century photographs, it found a global architectural footprint. We're talking about grand city halls, massive state capitals, and ornate post offices that are practically twins, separated by thousands of miles of ocean. Historians say it's just European influence, but the AI saw something they missed. A telltale sign that these structures were built with a forgotten form of energy, suggesting their original creators were not who we think they were. When every city looked the same. It's funny when you think about it. We trust artificial intelligence to drive our cars, manage stock markets, and diagnose diseases. So what happens when we point that same powerful intelligence at our own past? Well, you get a discovery that threatens to tear the history books to shreds. Researchers recently fed an AI system hundreds of thousands of photographs from the 19th century. The goal was simple: categorize and find similarities in global architecture. But the result was a bombshell. The AI didn't just find similarities, it found a literal global blueprint. A ghost pattern connecting cities that, according to our history, had no business being so intimately related. Across the board, the AI flagged a specific style of architecture, what we might call neoclassical, Beaux-Arts, or Greco-Roman revival. But it went deeper. It saw identical designs, proportions, and even construction methods in places separated by vast oceans and cultural divides. A state capitol building in the United States, for example, might share an almost spooky resemblance to a government building in Argentina or a university in Australia. These aren't just quaint similarities. We're talking about gargantuan structures, many soaring over 10 stories high, adorned with massive stone columns, intricate facades, and towering domes. Think about the logistics. These buildings, weighing millions of pounds, were supposedly erected in the 1800s, a time of horse-drawn carts and rudimentary tools. The numbers just don't add up. For instance, the Utah State Capitol building was completed in just 4 years, from 1912 to 1916. It's constructed from over 7,000 tons of granite, quarried and transported from miles away. And that's in the 20th century. Many of the buildings the AI flagged are even older, bigger, and were built even faster. They all seem to pop up in a narrow window of time from the mid to late 1800s. How did civilizations all over the world, many of them young and still developing, suddenly gain the expertise and resources to build these masterpieces of masonry all at once? This is where the theory of a lost civilization comes in. A civilization often called the Tartarian Empire. Proponents of this idea suggest that what the AI detected wasn't the spread of a European style, but the remnants of a single, highly advanced global human empire that existed before our current one. An empire with technology that rivaled and perhaps even surpassed our own. According to this theory, these magnificent buildings weren't built in the 1800s. They were found. They were the abandoned infrastructure of this old-world civilization, and our ancestors simply moved in, repainted them, and claimed them as their own. It's a wild thought, but the AI's data gives it a chilling new layer of credibility. The AI was unbiased. It wasn't looking for a conspiracy, it was just looking for patterns, and it found one so profound it recontextualizes the entire planet. But the architecture is only the beginning. The AI also flagged strange anomalies in the buildings themselves. Many of them have doors that are 15 to 20 feet tall, windows that begin 10 feet off the floor, and most tellingly, ground-level floors that seem to be buried deep in the earth, with windows peeking out from just above the modern-day sidewalk. This has led to one of the theory's most shocking claims. The buildings weren't just abandoned, they were buried by a global cataclysm. The orphan train mystery. So if these incredible buildings are leftovers from a lost civilization, what happened to it? This is where the story takes an even stranger turn. Followers of the Tartarian theory point to evidence of a massive worldwide cataclysm they call the Great Mud Flood. It sounds like something from a disaster movie, but when you start looking for it, you see it everywhere. Go to the historic downtown of almost any major city in the world. Look at the old, grand buildings from the 1800s. You'll often see windows at sidewalk level leading to what is now a basement. The question is, who builds windows just to look at dirt? The theory suggests these aren't basements at all. They are the original ground floors of these structures. The entire planet was supposedly hit by a liquefaction event or a massive deluge of mud that buried cities worldwide up to their first, second, or even third stories. The evidence is photographic. Countless pictures from the mid-1800s show major cities looking deserted, with streets caked in thick mud and workers digging out the entrances to these grand buildings. The official narrative calls this laying sewer lines or grading the streets. But could it be something else? Could they be excavating an entire buried world? This would explain the impossibly tall doors and windows. They weren't built for giants, they were built for normal-sized people in a world where the ground level was 20 or 30 feet lower. It's a mind-bending idea. It suggests the world we inhabit is sitting directly on top of another, older one. And what happened to the billions of people who lived in this old world? Well, the theory says they were wiped out. And our modern history began with the inheritors or resettlers of this empty, mud-filled world. This leads us to another creepy historical oddity, the orphan trains. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were taken from cities on the east coast of the United States and shipped out to the Midwest to be adopted. The official story is that they were orphans from poor immigrant families. But the Tartarian theory offers a darker explanation. What if these weren't just orphans? What if they were the traumatized, memory-wiped survivors of the mud flood cataclysm, being redistributed to repopulate the freshly excavated and reclaimed empty cities? It's a shocking claim, but the timelines match up perfectly with the sudden appearance of these grand buildings and the photographic evidence of cities caked in mud. It was a complete societal reset. But if a reset of this magnitude happened, someone had to be in charge. When Titans Fall. If you want to understand how an entire global empire could be erased from history, you don't have to look back at ancient cataclysms. You can just look at how power works today. It's all about control. Consider a story that might seem totally unrelated at first, from the world of reality TV gold mining. For years, one of the biggest names in the Klondike was Tony Beets, a legendary miner. He was an independent force, a titan of the industry who played by his own rules. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the government stepped in. They shut him down over water licenses and permits. Years of work, millions of dollars of equipment, a whole empire, ground to a halt by a stack of papers. And what happens when a power vacuum is created? Someone else steps in to fill it. As soon as Tony's operation was sidelined, his biggest competitor, Parker Schnabel, wasted no time and moved to take over the land, the resources, everything. One king is taken off the board and another is there to take his place. The old way of doing things is erased and a new power establishes itself, controlling the narrative and the gold. Now think about that on a global scale. It's a pattern we see over and over. A powerful entity is dismantled, often by a larger, more organized force, and their story is either rewritten or completely wiped out. This is the exact model the Tartarian theory proposes for our own history. The old world of Tartaria, with its advanced technology, free energy, and unified global culture, was the original king of the hill. It was too independent, too powerful. So according to the theory, a new rising power, let's call them the controllers or the resettlers, orchestrated their downfall. This might not have been a war with armies, but a war of information, cataclysms, and historical revisionism. They used the mud flood, or perhaps even caused it, to literally bury their world. Then they rewrote the history books, casting the Tartarians as barbaric Tartars from Mongolia, shrinking their legacy from a global empire to a regional tribe. They became the new Parker Schnabel, taking over the land of the entire planet. The grand abandoned buildings were their prize. They scrubbed the old symbols, patched them up, and sold us the story that we built them, with our grit and determination. They took the credit, just as Parker took the gold-rich ground. It sounds like a conspiracy, but it's a story as old as time, the powerful replacing the powerful and then doing everything they can to make you forget the old boss ever existed. But if this is true, what are we supposed to do with this information? Are we living in a lie? So let's step back for a second and just look at this. The thing is, where does this leave us? The regular people just trying to make sense of the world. It's one thing to hear about ancient mysteries in faraway lands, but this is different. This is about the courthouse in your town square, the old central post office you walk by every day, the state capitol you visited on a school trip. It's a story that suggests the very ground beneath our feet is a historical crime scene. You have an impartial AI, a machine with no agenda or preconceived notions, pointing out a global architectural footprint that completely defies the official timeline. It's not a historian with a pet theory, it's pure data suggesting our past is not what we've been told. Then you have the physical evidence, the mud flood windows. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. These aren't just basements. They are perfectly formed windows and doors buried deep below the modern street. It suggests our bustling cities are sitting on top of an older, grander world, like a fresh coat of paint over a priceless, forgotten mural. You have historical anomalies like the orphan trains, a story that suddenly shifts from a sad chapter in social history to a chilling piece of a possible repopulation program. And you have a plausible model for how it could have been done, a playbook of power consolidation and information control that we still see happening today when big players erase the competition. It's a lot to take in. It really makes you wonder, if this is true, what else are we missing? Are we like tenants who were handed the keys to a grand old mansion, completely unaware of the real architect and the dramatic history that played out in these halls before we arrived? We're just happy to have a roof over our heads, never questioning why the doors are 17 feet tall or why there are strange, sealed-off tunnels in the basement. You start to look at the world differently. You see the incredible grandeur of an old bank or library, and you don't just see history. You see a giant question mark. Who really built this? And why were they so much better at it than we are today? Think about it. We have all this advanced technology, laser levels, massive cranes, and computer-aided design, yet we build glass and steel boxes with an expected lifespan of maybe 50 or 60 years. These old-world structures, supposedly built by men with horse carts and pulleys, are crafted from granite, marble, and stone. They've already stood for centuries and look like they could stand for 1,000 more. They are adorned with intricate sculptures, towering domes, and columns of breathtaking size. Were these buildings just for processing paperwork and mail, or did they have a different, more profound purpose we can no longer understand? Now, it's important to be clear. Mainstream historians have explanations for all of this. They say the architectural similarities are simply due to the popularity and global spread of neoclassicism during an age of colonialism and cultural exchange. They argue the mud flood evidence is just cities methodically raising their street levels over decades for better sanitation and traffic flow. They say the orphan trains were a well-documented, if tragic, social program from a harsher time. These are the official answers, the neat and tidy explanations you'll find in the textbooks. but they don't quiet that nagging feeling that something is off. They feel too simple. The sheer scale of it all is what's hard to shake. It wasn't just a few buildings in major capitals, it was a global, unified, and seemingly instantly appearing infrastructure, from a massive theater in the Amazon jungle to ornate government buildings and brand new colonial outposts. Could it all happen so fast, all at once, all over the world? Are we missing a crucial detail? The possibility that our entire modern world is built quite literally on the ruins of a much more advanced, forgotten civilization is a heavy thought. It suggests our history isn't a straight line of progress, but a brutal cycle of creation, destruction, and cover-up. Like and subscribe for more truths hidden in plain sight. Does this evidence change the way you see our world? Let us know in the comments if you believe we are living on the remnants of a lost global empire.